Oh, why? Because we're not made in Japan, it was made in America. Can you guys hear that noise? What kind of junk is that? 23,000 miles.
In the car community, there is always going to be some level of skepticism anytime a new engine is introduced. Just recently, Toyota has been under fire for all intents and purposes for essentially having what we would like to think of as faulty twin-turbocharged V6s for their Tundra and LX 400 lineup. Now, the real problem comes in is that we are a bit harsh on car companies anytime they inject a new level of technology. And in this video, I wanted to get into that. What's up, guys? My name is Chris, and welcome to The Breakdown, where we talk about everything cars news and reviews. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So just recently, Toyota has announced about 100,000 recalls on their Toyota Tundra, in addition to their Lexus LX models. And of course, the skeptics of the twin turbocharged movements are definitely saying, yeah, I told you so. But I wanted to give a little more enlightenment on why we should really give Toyota a little more grace, because unfortunately this is just a part of the natural process in moving towards electrification. So with that being said, stick around and stay tuned, because you are now watching The Breakdown. So getting into it. So before I get started, just a few housekeeping things. If you're new to the channel, I have been away for about a month right about now. And unfortunately, life happens. So I like to distribute a very well deserved apology to my audience, because I feel like you guys really have been looking for me to produce some really good content. And hopefully I can continue to do that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the show. So this is more of an analysis of what happened with Toyota's recall. So back in 2021, Toyota announced that they would be dropping their big infamous iForce V8 that was a 5.7 liter that could be found in many of their pickup trucks and SUVs. Toyota is no way short or form a loss of names in the car community, but also across the world. Toyota is one of the world's largest manufacturers, producing some of the most incredible and reliable vehicles on the road today. Now, this application of the 5.7 liter V8 is in many different applications, such as the Tundra, but also as well as the Land Cruiser and the Sequoia, as well as the LX and GX models. And so for a long time, the iForce V8 was probably the most unmatched legendary engine of Toyota, as those big body V8s were completely bulletproof. Many of them have easily gotten over 500,000 miles. And back in 2021, when they decided that they were going to shift from V8s to twin turbocharged V6s, a lot of us had skepticisms about whether or not that was a good decision. Now, for historical context, Toyota has always done things kind of religiously. They don't really do that is like off the cuff, because they would rather protect their reputation and provide quality products to us customers, even though their cars can be a bit boring. The new engine displacement of this new twin turbocharged V6 engine is a 3.4 liter twin turbocharged V6. It produces roughly about 389 horsepower. Now, that's not the big kicker. Many of these engines that they have introduced in turbocharged and hybridized have monstrous torque, which is great for towing. And so when Toyota decided that they were going to move to twin turbocharged V6s instead of V8s, we had a lot of skepticism. Now, to get to the meat and potatoes of what's happening. So recently, Toyota has had to recall about 100,000 units. For all intents and purposes, these engines are exploding. Now, this is kind of unusual for Toyota, as they are pretty much known for having some really good engines. In fact, I would argue they're some of the best engines on the planet, because they're often detuned, underpowered, and for all intents and purposes, they're a little choked. Somebody got him by the neck. Now, for those of you who are wondering, what am I getting at with this twin turbocharged V6 and why is it exploding? Essentially, what has happened is that Toyota, during its manufacturing process, has had some rather miscalculations on the machining of the bearings inside the engine, and there has been some level of shrapnel or some fragments that have been left. And during the manufacturing process, once everything is sealed and closed, those little bitty pits from the manufacturing process continue to exist within the engine. And as the engine continues to uptick and roar and crank up and all of those good things, those itty bitty pieces create huge problems. And what ends up happening is that many consumers with less than 100 miles on the engine, and yes, I said that right, 100 miles on the engine, cause the engine to not only reduce power, but also to basically spontaneously combust. Well, maybe not combust, but definitely engine failure. And so the run of this is coming from a specific lineup of the first batch of engines, which is the V35A specific line engines, and it's usually in the earlier mounts. Basically, that pressure on the main bearings as the little bits and pieces get in there essentially causes engine failure and really requires a whole new overhaul of engines. But more importantly, it's more dangerous for people to be driving in the midst of highway driving, and these engines pretty much fail, creating a whole level of issues for the consumer. So here's the thing. The public opinion is always going to be that of skepticism and negativity. No way, shape, or form am I sponsored by Toyota, so my opinions are real. But when it comes to any type of new technology and it comes to anything new that we're going to be introducing onto the market, it is almost guaranteed that you are going to run into issues. Back when I worked in warehousing, we would oftentimes change processes to meet certain deadlines and accommodations for those dealers. And it would be amazing if we in fact changed a process and it went smoothly. Unfortunately, in many cases, we ended up running through several different trials and errors before we got the process efficient and right. And the same could be said for manufacturing. The difference between warehousing and manufacturing is that with manufacturing, there are machines involved. If they're not properly calibrated, if there's some miscalculation, and in some cases, if QC happens to miss a certain batch of things that go on, it can be very detrimental for consumers. But I think the big thing here is that we're taking the twin turbocharged V6 as a lineup of I told you so, and there's always going to be people that go to the reliability component. But I'm here to set the record straight. Anytime you have a level of introduction of technology as time goes on, that is going to get better and better. We've seen that with many manufacturers, from Ford to GM to Volvo to even with Teslas, they have had recent recalls. But the thing is that the big takeaway from this is while it is easy to believe that the iForce V8 that was long produced was more reliable, of course it was, because it had been produced for almost 20 years. And this is kind of the first leap into electrification for Toyota as all across the board, across the fleet, and really getting away from any type of exclusive ICE or internal combustion engine. And so the real problem here is that with this blunder, it creates a level of negative precedence for Toyota as they are trying to convince us as the public that we need electrification to help benefit the wonderful environment we have obviously polluted. So Toyota has kind of rectified and admitted openly that they are running into some remedies. But the big thing here is to take away that even with new technology, we can expect some more blunders to come from other manufacturers, and Toyota is just many of one. And according to NHTSA, it's only estimated that about 1% of those cars actually are running into those issues. So in this video, I did a really concerted effort to make sure that I let you guys know that just because a car is turbocharged or electrified does not mean that it's bad technology. It's just that we have to take away that there's going to be some hiccups along this road, especially as many new manufacturers are starting to move away from just ICEs and just electric vehicles, but into the hybridization of things. And if nobody has done it right for the last 20 to 30 years, it has been Toyota. But I say all of that to say is give them some grace. Now, the bigger question is, have you been affected? You can go on the National Highway Safety Traffic Institute, and I will go ahead and put a link in the description below so that you can go check your car for a recall. And the remedy has not really been pushed out, as well as Toyota has not exactly pushed out the bulletin for a lot of consumers to start getting that squared away. But if you are in the market for a Toyota Tundra, I can confidently say that it is more or less that as long as you check the engine code and you do a recall research, or even more importantly, you get a newer batch of Toyota Tundras or any type of truck or SUV that has the application. This is not to take away from the engineering of Toyota. It is really a miscalculation in the manufacturing process, and truth be told, this could happen to anybody. But with that being said, I did want to kind of give some context as to why this is happening. Let me know if you think that Toyota moving to a twin turbocharged V6 was a good idea, or if you feel like in some degree or some capacity that they have made a huge mistake by switching away from the V8. And with that being said, until the next episode, I will see you guys later.